G'day, guys. Welcome back to Statchat Sports. We're continuing on our pre-season preview videos for the Premier League. We're looking at 12th through to 9th today. Taz is with me as always, but I'm gonna keep the mic for the first one here because our 12th spot team is Everton. The arch rivals of Liverpool, the team we support, but after probably what was their worst season, I mean, it's the worst season I remember from an Everton side last season, right up until that final day. Well, actually, no, it wasn't the final day in the end. The game week before, they were right in the thick of a relegation battle, which is certainly unfamiliar territory for them. We've got them a little bit higher this season, but it's still not quite, the Everton we've been accustomed to. They're still below that mid-table sort of setting. But, the loss of Richarlison, I don't know how much of a major issue that makes. He was a key figure for them, but he wasn't sort of the go-to guy, I feel. And, they haven't really made any sort of signings either. Only the one to really touch on, being Tarkowski. Get a centre back in there is not a bad idea because their defensive record was clearly shit. But I think for me, the reason why they are where they are for us is that they haven't really done anything to sort of change that so far, or anything that sort of us looking from the outside in can really see.
Yeah, we'll obviously look at that season as it's an outlier. It really should be. I mean, the team's not that bad. You look at the squad as a first 11, it really shouldn't be. They weren't a relegation team, and that's why everyone just expected Everton to suddenly lift themselves out. But it took till basically the second last game for them to actually mathematically be out of a chance of being relegated. But yeah, I mean, no, apart from James Tarkowski from Burnley as a centre back, it's good experience. But does that offset the loss of Richarlison? No. So, I mean, where does this team go? I mean, yeah, I completely agree with your point that Richarlison wasn't the be all and end all for that team. To me, that was Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They really missed him, and when I think he was injured for a little bit last season, and they really needed him to be firing. Yeah. It's probably regression back to, well, say regression. We are regressing back to the mean, which season improvement for Everton. But I mean, there's still time left for this squad to add some new pieces. But I mean, for me, I think just the preseason under Lampard, just get that under the belt, really get this team the way Lampard wants it to be. I'm pretty sure that will fix a lot of the issues that they experienced last season.
So do we think 12th is maybe too harsh, given the fact that what you just said, that, the team that they had last season on paper didn't deserve to be, in that relegation battle, and given it is basically the same team, is this about where they sit at the moment?
Yeah, I think 12th is quite good. I mean, I look at the teams above them and I don't see how they can bridge that gap, especially with the lack of signings so far. I don't know where. I mean, I'm not saying it's my comment about the team being, it's not trash, but it's not great either. There isn't a lot that inspires me with confidence, but there isn't a lot in that team that tells me that they're getting relegated. They are somewhere in that midfield pack. Yeah, I just don't expect them to be challenging for relegation again.
What about Dele Alli? I mean, I don't know if you've actually seen any of Everton's preseason games so far, but they had an embarrassing, I think it was a 4-0 loss to Minnesota or something like that over in the States. And their most recent one, they won, and I believe Dele Alli scored both goals. But, he has not been, he's been a shadow of his, we'll call it prime time, I suppose, at Spurs. He obviously went through a bit of a decline there, and he's ended up at Everton, and he hasn't done great deal in the little time that he was there. So, given what we know he can do, is he probably the player that can maybe change their season?
Yeah, he'll probably become a bit of a barometer for that team, I think. I did happen to see that miss. I'm pretty sure that was
Everyone
against
saw it.
Minnesota.
Nobody didn't see that.
Oh, it's about 2 yards out, and I don't know how you don't put it in the net at that point. Oh, it was a nasty one. But yeah, look, yeah, a barometer for me. We saw what he did at Spurs, and he absolutely carved it up at Spurs. If he can rediscover that form, then that goes some way to putting Everton in the top half of the table, I think. But the guy I want to see a little bit more from, and we did see it in dribs and drabs last season. He's only young, but Anthony Gordon. I mean, we saw here some really good stuff in patches this season, and I expect his development to really improve, and hopefully we can see a bit more from him.
Spot number 11 belongs to the mighty Wolves, Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's a team that we've both spoken about as a bit of a, we're fans of what they do over there. But we've only got them in 11th.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves, their defensive solidities, it generally, unless there's some sort of catastrophic, I don't know, unless something really changes in that team, they're just so solid defensively, and you can just nail them down right in that midfield. I don't see them as a team. I mean, they didn't score many goals last season at all. They really had to rely on that defensive prowess. But this team has the talent there to be able to be firing more goals in. I mean, we've seen Raul Jimenez have a down year. I fully expect him to bounce back. I think he's too class a player to be kicking 6 goals, to be scoring 6 goals in a season. I think he should be a 10 to 15 guy, 10 minimum.
Yeah,
15 guy. I think that's what he is. They've managed to hold on to Neves, which I thought was just about impossible. I thought he was gone. So that's huge. And they've made some solid investment. They've obviously kept Hwang Hee-chan, who started the season off like a house on fire. I think he had 4 goals within the first 7, 8 games, maybe. Really tapered off. But that was Wolves altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, Wolves, I think they were winless in their last 7. So I fully expect Wolves to be in that midfield battle, challenging for European football. But the big question for me is whether those attackers can fire.
Yeah, you've spot on. I reckon. It comes down to obviously Raul Jimenez a bit of an off season, and he still played a decent amount of games, but only finishing on 6 is not great. But can you maybe put that down? Part of that down to, he's stepping back on a pitch after his pretty serious head injury. It'd be difficult to sort of come back from that. So I expect him to come back, pretty heavily in the next season. And their defensive record, like you said, I mean, they conceded the fewest goals out of any team that was outside of the top 4. So I think it was 43. So that's good, considering the only other teams to concede fewer goals was teams in the top 4. They finished all the way down in 10th. If they could put the ball in the back of the net, they'd probably be in Europe this season. So there's no reason why they can't be up there. They've got a real solid spine with Jimenez, Neves keeping hold of him, and Jose Sarr, who kept some, a decent amount of clean sheets and numerous amounts of saves in games. So, they've got that spine, that solid spine, which is what is important. You need the players around it now. So, interesting to see. I don't know if Adama Traore's loan spell is over at Barca. But if he comes back, that'll be a good plus, because that link up between him and Jimenez was, you know, quite prominent, and probably a reason why Jimenez scored as many goals as he did the previous sort of season and before Adama left. So I believe he might be back. Remains to be seen whether he stays, but yeah, you know, it all comes down to being able to put the ball in the back of the net. So maybe 11th is a little harsh, but you know, they're good enough to be able to push anywhere from that 11th through to probably 6th, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, European competition has to be the aim. They are a good team. It's just whether they can. Yeah, we could talk about it to death, but the main thing is just they need the goals. And I mean, yeah, Adama Traore, it was. There's been criticism that his end product, he's all flash and he's all pace, and his end product isn't there, but he has chemistry with a lot of those guys. So I think to have him back will really change their fortunes.
Any Wolves fans, let us know. You know, do you think it'll be, you know, are we correct in what we're saying here? Do you think it'll come down to, you know, the forwards? Is Jimenez expected to come back firing this season? Let us know, because it's an interesting one, and we don't mind Wolves on the channel. Taz, we've got Aston Villa in at 10th. Look, I'll start by saying, you know, this sort of middle pack is real touch and go. You could honestly put sort of any team from maybe, let's say, from probably 12th through to about 7th or 8th. You could just about put anyone in there. It's real tight. But for me, I think Villa's made more marquee signings to really help their team. I mean, Diego Carlos is one off the bat. That's a big pickup for them. Obviously, signing Coutinho on a permanent deal now, who got off to a flyer for him, and was good in patches after that, basically. So, and obviously a first full preseason under Gerrard, who, like I just said, got off to the best start possible, and then maybe that new manager hype sort of died down a little bit. And then they slowly tapered off again. So I expect them to be up there, challenging at least for like a conference spot. Because for me, they've got the squad to do it. You know, Danny Ings up top, you know, on his day, as long as he's not injured, he can put the ball in the back of the net. Coutinho, you know, the little magician, he can carry a game. And you know, Emi Martinez in goal is a solid keeper at this time as well. And then you solidify the back line with Diego Carlos. So for me, they've got just about every piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, they're such a solid team. They've got game winners. They've got guys that can steal games in Martinez. We've seen him do it before. Got Coutinho who can create goals out of nothing. And Ings is one of the more solid poachers, I'd say, in the league at the moment. His numbers have never been remarkable, but they're pretty damn consistent. But yeah, there's all these teams in here. I mean, the Wolves, Villa, Leicester. You put them. It's a raffle. It's a lottery. It feels like a lottery with some of these teams. I mean, but Aston Villa are doing the right things. I mean, Gerrard's, don't want to be biased here, but I think he's going to be a great manager. Whether he can take Villa to the heights that they deserve to be at, I don't know. I think he can. And yeah, a full preseason with him will just absolutely work wonders for this team. I'm pretty sure it was Villa. I saw Gerrard set him a few rules and a few fines for this team. It's pretty good. Like, I wouldn't want to be paying some of those fines, but as a Villa fan, you'd love to see that. You like to see that structure and that just the mentality is trying to instill in that team. It's just a togetherness, and to do that, yeah, you've got to really set some tight boundaries, and I think that's great for the club.
At the time of recording, well, actually a few weeks ago at the time of recording this, or about a week ago, Villa were in Australia. In fact, they were in Perth, where we are. to play a couple of games. They played Leeds. They played Manchester United. They drew both games, I believe, including they came back from 2 down against United. A double from Leon Bailey. Yeah, he's sort of a player that we haven't touched on yet, but he's looked good so far.
Yeah, the acquisition from Bayer Leverkusen, he's been pretty decent. Hopefully he can keep it going into the season, but yeah, I think big things ahead.
Now, Tazza, you mentioned them just before. 9th place, Leicester City.
Yeah, I mean Leicester, I don't know what it is with this team. They're full of stars. They're I wouldn't say stars, but very solid players all over the park. And they were just up and down for me last season. I mean, I really like Leicester. I think a lot of us have a bit of a soft spot for Leicester after what they did a few years ago in winning the league as 5,000 to 1 odds. And I'm speaking for myself here, but I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of people in saying I follow Leicester a lot. And I mean, there is some talent in this squad. We've seen Yuri Tielemans, James Maddison, Kasper Schmeichel. These are like bona fide great players, by league standards. And Jamie Vardy, I don't know how I missed him, but yeah. This team is. We've got them 9th here. They could, if they get this firing again, I think they should be pushing for Europa. I think they could be anywhere up to there. Guys like Dewsbury Hall had a really good end to the season last season. I think if he can kick on into this season, he'll be a really good piece. But for me, Vardy's 35. They need some consistency out of those second and third strikers or attackers. And Ian Archer and Patson Daka have to be those guys. We've seen, I think Daka's scored 3 goals so far through preseason. So we are seeing a bit of progression from Daka. And if Leicester are to really have a bounce back year, I mean, they finished 8th, but I feel like it was unconvincing. They were so far off the pace of those teams that they want to try and chase. I think if they want to get there, it's guys like Daka and Ian Archer that have to take the reins from Vardy a little bit more.
So it begs the question for me there. It's just something that you said. Would you say Leicester underachieved last season, or their previous couple of seasons? Would you say they overachieved in those seasons?
No, I think it was an underachievement last season. I don't know if that's just being a bit of a sideline fan of Leicester. I'm not huge about them, but I am a fan of their game. I just think the guys like Maddison and Tielemans didn't have their best year, and we have seen what they can produce in years gone by. Maddison was he was quite disappointing last season. We didn't see much at all from him, and I think if he can rediscover some of that form that we've seen, Leicester can, I'm not going to say a force, but they can put a much more consistent year together.
For me, you mentioned, Jamie Vardy's in his mid-30s. He's getting on a fair bit. He definitely had his fair share of injuries last season. Only played 25 games, but he still managed to score 15 goals in that time. So, yes, he can still do a job for them, clearly at 33, 34, however old he is. But yeah, he's not going to be able to do it, for much longer, you wouldn't think. So yeah, these other guys coming through, Daka, they're going to look towards them a lot more, and even the likes of Maddison to maybe chip in a few more goals. But I mean, they're the first team out of everyone we've looked at so far who have made nil movements in terms of transfers, in both inbounds and outbounds. They've not really changed their squad in any way.
Yeah, and after a year that probably wasn't super. Well, it wasn't great, I would say. I don't think Brendan Rodgers would have looked at that year and thought it was much of a success. There's got to be some sort of turnover in that team. And yeah, to have seen nothing is quite strange, in or out. Maybe he's happy with what he's got in his disposal. I mean, we did see the likes of Dewsbury Hall come through. I'm pretty sure I think he come through their academy or through their youth. And maybe they like what they see still coming through that system, but a team of Leicester stature, I think, need to be looking elsewhere for targets and guys to improve that team.
If you are a fan of any of these 4 teams we've spoken about today, as always, leave a comment. Let us know if you agree, disagree with what we've said. At the time of recording this, we're just a little over a week from the season beginning, so we'll have two more episodes covering the last remaining teams. So stay tuned for those. We're so close to the goal of 250 subs. So if you do watch the videos and you're not subbed, please do help us get to that 250 mark. Like the videos if you do enjoy them, they help them out a lot. And click the notification bell so you're always aware of when we upload content to the channel. But until next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.